Okay.
We call to order the Winterville Planning and Zoning Committee for the month of November 20th, 2023 to order. Welcome to all our board members. Seems it's been a while since we last seen each other. It's good to see your faces, and it's good to be seen versus being viewed, as they say. So,
Yep.
we have excused absent Randy Daniels. Anything else? Anyone else that we got to?
That's all.
That's all. Okay. What is the pleasure of the board with regard to the excuse absent for Ms. Brandy Daniels?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved and proper second. All those in favor use the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, approval of the agenda. You had a chance to review the agenda. We have printed copies, and you also had copies that were emailed to us in our packet. What is the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved and properly second. All those in favor use your voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 8, new business. Quell Trace subdivision rezoning.
Good evening, board. I know it's been a while since we have met, but it's good to see everybody. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, if I don't say it a little bit later. I want to start by introducing a rezoning that we have received. So it's being proposed with the name Quell Trace subdivision, and I'll show you the location as we proceed. The applicant is Garden Street Communities Southeast LLC. As we'll see in a little bit here with some images, this is located on Highway 11, between Highway 11 and Reedy Branch Road. This is just to the east of Copper Creek, or Summer Winds, or Magnolia Ridge, which are all located there on Reedy Branch Road. It's a 43.72 acre site that's currently zoned agricultural residential. Again, agricultural residential is somewhat of a placeholder to when something is generally farmland, when the ordinance was created, to be considered later for a rezoning if it changed from agricultural use. The proposed zoning district for this site is R10 Residential Zoning District, which is a 10,000 square foot lot. Notification was posted on this site on November 8th. Adjacent property owners and those within 100 feet were mailed notification of the rezoning request on November 14th to notify them of the request and this P&Z meeting. If you guys look on the screen, you can see in this blue outline, this is the subject property. North to south here is Highway 11 or Winterville Parkway. And then on this side of the site is Reedy Branch Road. Does anybody have any questions of location before we proceed? This is just an image, and it's kind of hard to tell up there, of the proposed rezoning map. And we look at it a little bit more in detail here. And it's mostly farmland, actively farmed land. A small bunch of trees over on the northeastern side of it. The existing land use, this site, of course, is vacant. A lot of it around, directly adjacent to it, is vacant. To the north, it's vacant. To the south, you have a cluster of homes just to the south of it, single-family residential. You've got one small active commercial site here. Most recently, it was called the Village Market, somewhat of a local grocery store and craft store. Across Reedy Branch, you have a lot of single-family residential, again, in Copper Creek, Magnolia Ridge, and Summer Winds. Thank you. Across Highway 11 somewhat makes a barrier for this site, but across Highway 11, you've got some vacant commercial as well. So again, vacant commercial to the north, some active commercial just below it, as well as single-family residential agricultural land directly to the south as well. Current zoning of this site is agricultural residential. They are proposing R10. Again, to the north, we're looking at general business zoned district. To the south, a bit of general business in the red as well. All of this kind of peach colored is agricultural residential. Across Reedy Branch, most of this is R12.5, 12,500 square foot lots. The bottom is R10 conditional use. Across Highway 11, again, Highway 11 really kind of creates a barrier for this site. But across Highway 11, you have industrial in this gray. And this kind of orange colored up here, that's multifamily residential. We're looking at the future land use plan. Again, one of the major considerations when we're considering a rezoning proposal. The proposed site itself is urban neighborhood. So this kind of orangish color up here, all of that is urban neighborhood. The blue down here is office and employment. This is kind of a unique area on our future land use plan in that it really could be viewed a few different ways. It was employment residential is what the firm finally came up with on this bit of land, just because it could really go a bunch of different directions, and they didn't want to pinpoint just that land just because of how many directions that could go. On the opposite side of Reedy Branch Road, all of this yellow is suburban residential. And then in the kind of downtown area, just to the north, this is purple. That is mixed use, future land use plan. Anybody have any questions?
Could you speak to the density for suburban residential and urban? I think I saw it for urban neighborhood.
Yeah, I'll get into that right here in a second.
Okay.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
I have a question about the R10
Yes.
conditional use. Is that Magnolia Ridge?
R10
Because the other two are, Magnolia Ridge was the older of those three.
Magnolia Ridge is R10 conditional use.
Yeah. Well, that's been there some time, and I noticed that the newer subdivisions are 10 or R12, 12.5. That's much better, I think. So thank you.
You're welcome. So to answer your question and to have it in front of me, the suburban residential is generally 2 to 3 dwellings per acre. The urban neighborhood is generally 3 to 8 dwellings per acre. And to dive a little bit more into the urban neighborhood, is primarily medium-sized lots with single-family detached residential. Occasionally smaller scale, such as patio homes or attached residential, if it's in a location that's appropriate. Again, if it's an appropriate location, it can even include some services, restaurants, office, at select locations. Of course, this is not being proposed at this location. With an R10, this is kind of theoretical. If you take 10,000 square foot lot and divide it into an acre, would come out to be 4.36 units per acre. However, that's theoretical because once you put the roads in, once you put stormwater facilities in, and other things that take up space, it would be a considerably less units per acre than the 4.3. Diving just a little bit more into the urban neighborhood, the general character as described in our future land use plan is somewhat higher density, predominantly single-family detached residential housing. Again, some attached housing, some commercial, some retail, some restaurants may be allowed at certain locations. The potential zones that are suggested for urban neighborhood are R12-5, R10, and R8. Now, the future land use plan also goes on to say possibly neighborhood business, R6, or multifamily residential. That's if it's at a appropriate location and also taking into account some of the other recommendations of the future land use plan. It may be things like parks and open space, other amenities that would make the other ones kind of impossible. But the three that it recommends is R12-5, R10, and R8. Again, uses small lot, single-family detached residential dominates the urban neighborhood. A 6,000 to 10,000 square foot lot, approximately. Again, some small retail or commercial at certain locations, or duplexes, townhomes, attached residential at specific locations may be approved. Part of our Winterville land use goals are to reinforce the town's identity as a family-friendly community. One of the strategies it suggests to use is to support rezonings to residential uses in suburban residential and urban neighborhood areas as identified on the future land use plan. The applicant submitted a sketch plan. Again, this is kind of theoretically how the subdivision could lay out. I want to be careful, though. This is just a sketch. This has not gone before any staff for any technical review to ensure that it meets subdivision ordinance. These are things that once a rezoning goes through, they generally submit something, called a preliminary plat, which you guys are very familiar with. That'll show the layout of the subdivision. It'll have to go before staff for technical review to ensure that it does meet the subdivision ordinance. So this is just a sketch that they submitted just to show you kind of an idea of what the subdivision could lay out to. I have received 2 inquiries about this rezoning. One was a phone call from a neighboring resident that stated significant concern about the development, its density and location. Another one that was concerned more about the sketch design. They were concerned at the locations of the driveways and how it may affect Magnolia Ridge and Summer Winds, especially with traffic accidents and congestion. They were hoping that it may be redesigned prior to the preliminary plat. I've received a third one. It was not necessarily during the rezoning. It was actually prior to the rezoning. One of the residents of a nearby neighborhood saw some guys out there doing some survey work, and he went out there and asked them, what was planned for that lot. Once they stated that it would be a single-family residential neighborhood being proposed, he did send an email to the town stating that, we need to be considering how many houses are going into Winterville in general. So he was kind of more concerned about Winterville losing its small-town quaint feel. This R10 zoning district proposal for this 34.72 acre site is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and the future land use map. For that reason, staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning. The rezoning process, just to give everybody a little bit of knowledge, now we will open up the floor. If anybody would like to speak on this subject, in the future, we will have schedule a public hearing. If everything goes as to planned, it would likely be the December 11th town council meeting in which we would schedule the public hearing. And if so, we would expect to hold the public hearing at the January 8th, 2024 town council meeting. However, with unknowns, make sure you keep up with the town staff, just to make sure that those are the dates that they fall on. We will be placing advertisements in the newspaper and mailing out letters to those who are adjacent and within 100 foot of for the public hearing itself. If you would like to open up the floor for those speaking in favor or against.
Okay, before we do that.
Go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yeah, we'll give the committee a chance to ask questions or comments before we do that.
Stephen, if I may, in the packet we received, there's a preliminary plat, and I heard what you said about it being very preliminary.
Sure.
However, I have a concern about the lot size, and it's been an ongoing concern of mine that we keep getting our lots smaller and smaller. We have two subdivisions across the street, the newer subdivisions, they are 12.5 zoned. And as I look at this preliminary plat, I believe there's got to be some 12.5 lots in here because they're very different sizes. If you look at it, can there be some explanation or discussion, even though it's a preliminary, what percentage would be 12.5 lots and what would be 10? Because they cannot have an 8, if we approve an R10 rezoning, they cannot have an R8 lot, correct?
That's correct. So,
Okay. But if we approve an R10, they can have all R10s. But I would like to know if they could give us an approximate breakdown of the R10s percentage of lots versus R12.5, because there's some large lots in there, and I gotta believe.
If the applicant may have some insight, one of the
When he comes up,
applicants
that'd be
is
fine.
here. I will say, like you pointed out, and I probably should say this more often, the zoning district is always the minimum of what they can submit. So you're absolutely right. In locations, there could easily be some that are, double that size or whatever it may be. A lot of that generally depends on how the land kind of lays out. If it was a perfect square of a lot, it may be a little bit more, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000 lots. But, with something like this that's a unique size, a lot of times you will get lots that are, varying in size.
Before we go, can we make sure we're using, for the streaming purposes, that we're using correct? This is not a preliminary plat. The drawings that you have submitted to us are not plats at all. They're just drawings or renderings or whatever.
100%.
So let's
Good,
use the
good
proper term
distinction.
so that we, for those who are present, that we're using the correct
Yes,
terminology.
this is 100% a rezoning. It is a sketch plan to show how this could look, but again, in no way has anything been submitted as a plat, nor has staff reviewed anything in regard to this lot other than the rezoning proposal in relation to the future land use plan. So even once this was submitted, I haven't even looked at looked at this, this layout sketch plan at all, just because that's something we will have to review if and when this is turned to a different zone for development. If that makes sense.
Yes, like I said, I just think we needed to use the correct terminology for
Absolutely.
the general public and those that may be streaming that we're using. Where a plat is not as in being considered tonight.
Yes, sir.
And
That's
what we're
correct.
looking at are just renderings or drawings, proposals.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee?
I understand that we're just discussing the rezoning here, but because the sketch was included, kind of opens it up for a couple of additional comments. A couple of the things that I was noticing for it to kind of lead into or future land use plan and some of the ideas from or comp plan, the sketch plan shows 3 cul-de-sacs on the northern end, just to consider possibly doing some stub outs to dead end into the northern property, so that way it encourages future development to also have circulation through that, and that might alleviate some of the traffic issues that might come up at Reedy Branch. So that way, later on at a future development, you'll have another access point to the neighborhood. The other thing I had a question about was if there was going to be a playground somewhere in this community. You do have locations called out for stormwater. Whenever you figure out the final layout and do the preliminary plat, just be sure to include a playground somewhere in there, because I could not find, or I did not see another playground within like a quarter-mile or half-mile vicinity of this neighborhood. And if that's what we're encouraging here, just to consider that for the final or preliminary plat.
If there's no other questions or comments from the committee, we will open the floor for comments.
Good evening, everybody. Zach Daugherty, 313 Stonehenge Drive, Dunn, North Carolina. Don't know if I need to state that for you, but here I am. Thank you very much for allowing me to come and speak to you tonight. I'll get to your questions in just a second, if you don't mind. I'll go through my little spiel. One of the biggest things, I'm a proud East Carolina graduate, class of 2012 and 2015. Born and raised here in Eastern North Carolina. It gives me a lot of pride to be able to come in and see what Winterville is doing and to hopefully be a part of that growth. So I do thank you very much for your consideration. One of the things that has stood out is that family atmosphere and the family-driven principles here in Winterville. I feel like it's always been that way. And it's my understanding that the property up for discussion here has been previously has come to, I guess, I could try to get R6 zoning. And in my opinion, and this is me as a person, not as a developer, I don't think R6 really does a great job of promoting a family atmosphere. It just packs in houses as many as you can get in an acre. Shows that somebody just cares about the almighty dollar. Whenever my wife and I were looking at houses, we looked at a lot that was 6,500 square feet and walked out on the back patio, and I said, well, honey, we can't live here because I'm going to be sitting on my neighbor's living room chair having coffee in the morning while I'm sitting on my back porch. So I feel like the R10 would help promote that zoning, or excuse me, would help promote that family atmosphere. You hear 10,000 square feet, I hear a quarter of an acre. And I think that makes a little bit of a difference whenever you put it in terms of acreage. The homes that we would likely have built in here, and I'm not the home builder, so I cannot really speak to that, but our primary client would be about 1,900 to 2,300 square feet. Even though this is just a conceptual design, this is what we would hopefully move forward with. And to answer your question, yes, sir, the minimum here is an R10. The reason that there are some larger lots there on the back side, Highway 11's there. You need a buffer there. So we would hopefully, we'd like to add a berm and some screening there to give privacy not only to to the folks that live in the back of the neighborhood, but also those going down Highway 11. You don't want to catch sight of something that you wouldn't want to see. But also, if you notice, on the southern portion of the property, we want to be able to give privacy to the homeowners to the south of the property. One of my biggest things that I made it a goal of mine whenever I got into this business is to be open and transparent. And I understand that we did not have to provide the sketch plan because it is just a rezone meeting. However, as I told Mr. McLaughlin here, I'd like to do business with other people the way that I would like to have business done with me. And being open and transparent goes along with those family values. And we want to give folks something to be proud of, not only that live within the subdivision, but also the folks around it. Now, I understand we've got some neighbors here, and it's not my goal to sit here and interrupt anybody's way of life. And that goes back to not wanting to pack in as many houses as we can. As Mr. Penn said earlier, the zoning in this future land use would go from allowable 3 units to 8 units an acre. This is 91 units across 34 acres. That's less than 3 units an acre. So we know what our minimum could be. We could get more in there, but I don't think that there's really any need to do that because we want a feeling of community in this area. Mr. Cunningham on the end. I believe you're pretty new.
Yep.
Correct. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome. The stub streets that you see, they're drawn in as cul-de-sacs. However, they will be stubbed out. So they will have placards at the end of the road for future growth in the event that the land to the north is developed in the future. That's really all I've got. I'm more than happy to answer any and all questions that you've got. I've got my business card. I'm more than happy to give it all to you. I'm all ears.
Any questions from the board?
I'm going back to my original question.
Yes, sir.
You know my question,
R10.
R10 versus R12.5, and I heard you speak that basically it's a third of an acre, works out to a third of an acre.
A quarter.
No, you just said,
10,000 square feet is about a quarter of an acre.
no, but you just said there were, by the number of houses divided by the acreage, we came to approximately a third of an acre. You just said a minute ago.
2.67 per,
Okay.
yes, sir.
All right. But what percentage houses do you anticipate having being the smaller lots? It's always been my concern on this board, small lots. And an R10 is a smaller lot, in my opinion. I like to see the R15s, and I think a lot of us here have thought that. But I understand the economics of trying to make a successful subdivision. So can you give me, Zach, can you give me some feedback of what percentage you think might be the smaller lots? I mean, I know that you have a drawing here, but not a plat.
Yes, sir. I understand what you're saying, and just rough math. I'd say probably upper a third, if not more, are going to be larger lots, larger than the 10,000 square foot minimum, with some being a little bit higher than the 10,000 that aren't included in that third. Probably looking at half being around that 10,000 square foot.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And again, that's rough math. So
That's fine. That's all.
I was an accounting major, but I've not done any accounting in a long, long time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you all very much. Have a safe Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Anyone from the audience that would like to speak? And we give you 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address.
Okay. My name is Ryan McLaurin. First of all, thank you for listening to me tonight. I live at 5093 Reedy Branch Road in Winterville. And my property is right up there in that corner, and this is our farmland. I have a brother who's 86 years old and an ex-sister-in-law and we've come to a point that we have to sell the farm. This farm has been in our land, our family, goes back to the early 1800s, so it's an emotional issue for me. Let me share that with you. But we're at a point where, for better reasons, financial reasons, other things, we're at a point where we have to sell the property, or at least look at trying to sell the property. A couple of years ago, we came to the zoning board with a developer. We were not our family didn't know much about development at that time, and the developer represented this R6 stuff. We didn't know much about it, but it actually passed zoning. It went to council, and it got, knocked down. And since that time, we've learned a lot more about it. And so our concern as a family has been that we have something out there that's nice to Winterville, that's respectful for our neighbors. I live in that section, and my son lives next door. We have the big old two-story white house out there. It was built in 1875. We intend to live there the rest of our lives, at least I do anyway. And so, I mean, whatever's built out there, it's going to be out my back door, and I'm going to be looking at it. So I'm concerned about it. I like your comment about playgrounds. Actually, I love them. I got two little I got one little grandchild now, 2 months old. But I like that. I think my experience with this developer here and with Zach, and I've talked to him a lot, has been their concern. I don't think he's giving anybody, blowing anybody in smoke. I think he's giving us a right view of what they want to do. I understand. I think Adams Homes may be doing some of the construction. They built a lot of homes around Winterville. I believe they're good builders, and I'm not sure about that, Zach. I'm not sure. But that's my understanding. I'm concerned. I want it right. I wouldn't stand up here and tell you I did, because I'm going to be looking at it every day. I understand the concern about lot sizes. I think that subdivision can be done very well, and particularly where the location is. I think it'll be a good asset to Winterville, and also help promote development of what's across the 11 now that's been sitting there forever. So that's all I've got to say. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Tilwanda Steinberg. I live at 286 Crimson Drive, right in Summer Winds. So we have no problems with the new neighborhood coming. We expect that. We want growth for Winterville. However, I am concerned with the lot sizes. I think that's going to be a huge part. My second concern is that it looks like the entrance to the neighborhood is going to be directly across the street from Summer Winds. That's going to be a big problem. If we're looking at 80, 90 homes, 2 cars per home, coming out of a neighborhood where we already have 80 or 90 homes, and we're meeting together, that's going to be a problem. We're going to turn into frog level really quickly. So I would ask you all to consider zoning the 15, and to maybe look at possibly relocating the driveway. And I think that's it. And I'd like to know in the future who the builder is going to be, and exactly what type of homes you're going to be building. It said patio homes, single-family homes, but those could be condos, townhomes. We're just concerned about what's going to go across the street. No problem with you building. I'm a banker. So I love to know that the area is growing. However, I want, if we look at Summer Wind, I can stand in my yard and there is a house. And if we're R15, what is R8 going to look like, or R10 going to look like? So I'm just asking you to consider that. Thank you.
Are there any other?
I'm Sandy Gail Edmondson. I came before you before about this property.
Your address?
5203 Reedy Branch Road. Okay. I am the adjoining property owner to this development a long way. Okay. I'm impacted by this. Ron McGlonhorn came before and asked for the smaller density. Now before it was supposed to be apartments. Now it's the other one that you approved, the city council denied. And now here comes the next one, R10. I would like to also see a bigger lot size. I do not want to see what I see at Copper Creek by Adams Builders. If you ride back there behind Copper Creek, and you see what Adams Builders is building, which I do, right back there. It is not what I want adjoining my property. I have been there for 30 years. I have dogs, I have horses. I've lived there for a long time. I raised my son there. And it disturbs me to know that this is going on. Thank you.
Are there any other? Okay. So if there be any, no other comments, what is the pleasure of the board regarding the rezoning request for Quill Trace subdivision rezoning?
I recommend that we do not approve R10. I would be receptive to an R12.5 with the approval to change it to residential also.
So the motion on the floor is to not approve. We get a second? Not hearing a second, the motion fails. What is the pleasure of the board?
I move that we approve the R10.
Now I have a motion on the floor to approve the request for rezoning as presented by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Stephen, can you do a roll call so we can get?
Mr. Morris, did you second it?
I second.
Peggy Clybourne? Sterling Gordon?
In favor.
Mr. Killian?
Yes.
Mr. Monroe?
Aye.
Mike Rowe?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Then that leaves Mr. Jones, who made the motion, and Mr. Second.
Okay, thank you. So the request for rezoning is approved and will go before council as a recommendation from this board. Staff report.
All right. For the most part, once it starts to get cold, it slows down a little bit. Once we get into the holiday season, it starts to slow down a little bit. I know this board hasn't met for a little while. There's still a significant amount of residential and especially commercial when you're looking at the Lowe's Foods development. And ACEs for Autism, and some of the other kind of larger sites. So we're still moving along fairly busy, but I expect it to probably pick back up once the New Year's comes in and the warmer weather starts to get closer. That's typically our busy season. Does anybody have any questions about anything Town of Winterville related?
Stephen, I'd like to keep tabs on the subdivision. I think it's Sutton subdivision. It's on Reedy Branch and, help me out here.
Yeah, Reedy Branch and Davenport Farm.
Thank you.
And so that we still haven't seen a preliminary plat for that subdivision. Kind of through I guess the grapevine, they're still working on the design of the preliminary plat, but nothing has been submitted to the town.
Any movement 903 Frog Level Road.
No, I don't know of anything, you're asking about the sewer moving, pushing
Yes.
out that way. No, I don't know of anything that's, at least right now, driving, sewer further outside of, in that area.
The church over there on the corner of Chapman and Depot, what is the city's, does the town have any plans for what they're going to do with the building itself, or?
I don't know. I really don't know. I know they just the town purchased it probably, way time flies, maybe 4 months ago. But I haven't been a part of any communication or meetings regarding what that property will be used for. But it's a really good site downtown Winterville. I think, as you guys know, there's not much open green land downtown Winterville, and it's pretty nice that the town was able to get that piece. And what he's referring to was I'm not sure how many acres it is. I'm going to say roughly 10-acre site on Depot and
Those stuff's on
Chapman and Depot. It's a open, for the most part, open green site. It does have an old church sitting right on the corner. It has an old basketball court on the land as well. But the purchase by the town was probably about 4 months ago.
It's up basically on the east side of Chapman, correct?
It is on the east side of Chapman. That's correct.
Does it run from the sewer station that's on Chapman?
It is adjoining that parcel. Yes, sir.
Okay.
But absolutely, thank you all, and I hope you have a great Thanksgiving and holiday break. If y'all need anything from me, just let me know. I'm happy to help. Thank y'all.
All right. If there's no other business before this town council, this board, what is the pleasure of the board regarding adjournment?
A second.
All right, moved in properly second. All those in favor, use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug?
Yeah. Dominique? Dominique, okay.
Yeah, no C, no K, no Q. I didn't address your question about playground. Do you have a chance to
Yes,
It's kind of discombobulated. What I'd like to do, and all the land down to the conversation piece. My hope is to get a lot of neighbors in mind and each a little bit. I'd like to grow that area.
Oh, we are. We're all getting together.
the playground was at the spot with the parking lot?
Yes.
Okay. I kind of figured that's what that was. But I don't know if that is enough space.
Yeah, my wife started cooking last week. Collard green. How about you?
I'm gonna be, my girls are something, so we'll come together. The hard not to do. She kind of requires that if you will.
The other thing that I had thought about, but I didn't think it was too critical for this meeting, but the sidewalks, I think the hatch that you have, the ladder hatch, is that indicated with the sidewalk? Yes.